I've been listening to a guy on here. His name is Andreas M. Antonopoulos, and he is a Bitcoin expert. And why I was interested in what he had to say is because I'm really doing some research into the scaling issue of Bitcoin and the other cryptocurrencies. Why scaling is important is there's some people that out there that say they can't scale and say Bitcoin will not be able to scale. And what scaling is, basically, it's the same thing that the internet went through years and years ago. A lot of people had to debate whether or not the internet would even be able to scale. And I remember when I first started on the internet, the big thing on the computers was Windows 95. And I got a connection that was to my telephone. I think it was a 64K or 56K. 56K, I think it was. And my phone line used to go click, 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 and my computer went click, 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 click. And like if I wanted to look at a picture, just a simple JPEG picture, it would slowly come down on the screen like this as it would reveal the picture, you know. And it would take like 5 minutes to view a picture, just an ordinary picture on the internet. Mostly what I did with it was I went and I looked at text. I went to different sites, and there wasn't that many sites on the internet back then. And you know, the internet back then used to be down half of the time it was down. And so what scaling was them slowly bringing the internet up to what it is today, where you're actually able to stream videos on it and stuff. And every time they go to a new level in the internet, it's like a staircase. Each time you climb the staircase, as the internet is progressing, and more people are coming online, more people are streaming videos and stuff, the internet's getting faster and faster and faster and faster and faster, capable of handling all these transactions and stuff. It's a slow process of being able to scale more and more information continuously. And this is what Bitcoin's going through, the same scaling issues. It's got, right now, it's at 7 transactions per second. When they do some of the modifications they're going to do to it, they're going to get it up so it'll scale faster and faster and faster, more transactions per second, so that the world can start to use it. Not just Bitcoin, but all of the cryptocurrencies. These represent an innovation. But now, getting back to this guy, Andreas M. Antonopoulos, I'm going to tell you, when it comes to the Bitcoins, this guy, he is he's the guy. He's your guy. He's the guy that really knows what he's talking about. And he's entertaining to listen to. I was just listening to him for maybe 2 or 3 of his conversations here on YouTube. Andreas M. Antonopoulos. And he's very interesting. He's answered a number of questions I've had about Bitcoin. I'm more enthusiastic about Bitcoin after listening to him because I realize he's right. Bitcoin is slowly going to modify itself to scale, along with the other cryptocurrencies. So in one of his conversations, they asked him, they said, how long do you think it's going to take before this cryptocurrency actually becomes adopted worldwide? And what's the effect of that? And he said that he gave a couple examples. One, he gave an example of when they took a gold and they adopted it into a paper. Originally, they used to use gold for everything. Every transaction, they used real gold. And then eventually what they did was they adopted the gold over into paper. And he said that when they first brought that out, these people were like, what, are you kidding me? You're going to hand me a slip of paper? I want gold. And they were like, no, they laughed at him. They said, no, we don't want. After they did it for a while, though, these paper contracts started to become worth the value of the particular amount of gold that they represented. And the people slowly adopted it and accepted that. And it actually quite literally took a very long time for that to happen. Because it was a big move. Then he went on to use another illustration about the credit cards. He said that when he got his first Visa card, it wasn't well adopted, and he tried to travel through Europe with his first Visa card, and he said what a mess that was. Nobody would take it, he said. But now, you know, they won't take cash. All they want is Visa. We can only take, unless you got exactly the cash of that particular country. So if you're traveling through Europe, say, and you got Great British pounds, and you're in Germany, you'll say, I want to pay with these Great British pounds, and they'll say, well, sure, we don't take that, we only take euro. And then you'll say, well, how can I pay? And they'll say, well, if you got Visa? Yeah. They said, slip the Visa in this thing here. And they also slide the, the little block thing at you to put the numbers in. They're fine. You're fine. You pay with Visa. But when he first went to use Visa years ago, that nobody took Visa. So it took a long time for it to actually be adopted and for everybody to start using it. I think, personally, when he was talking about this, he also gave a timeline of how long he thinks it's going to take for Bitcoin. He thinks for full adoption, 15 years, according to him. And I think he's about right. Probably about 15 years for full adoption from where we are right now till the whole world is on Bitcoin. But you got to understand something. If he's right, and there's only 21 million Bitcoins, and it goes into full adoption in the next 15 years, you're looking at a bare minimum of all of the world's a transfer of wealth into cryptos that's going to be absolutely phenomenal. I've made a decision quite recently. I've been doing more research into the cryptocurrency space, and I'm bullish on this stuff. What can I say? I'm just using reason and common sense, and I'm getting more and more bullish on this stuff all the time. Because I can see that this is really, honest to gosh, it's a wave of the future. If you don't get in on this, you don't know what you're missing. If you're a silver guy, if you're a silver bug, and you don't get in on a little bit of this action, it's like if you're stubborn and you say, hey, I'm not never buying Bitcoin, Well, right now the Bitcoin's $4,000. And the next thing you know, it'll be $8,000. And you'll be like, damn Bitcoin, and you'll be even madder because you didn't get in on it at 4,000. And then when it's 8,000, you don't get in on it again. And then the next thing you know, it'll be $16,000. And you'll be like, don't talk to me about that damn friggin' stuff. That's how you'll be, right? And then when it's 32,000, you'll finally start to soften. But you're still, no, I'm not paying that for it. I could have got it back when it was 4,000. Why am I going to pay 32,000? But then when it gets 64,000, you'll start to say, well, I'm going to buy myself a little bit of it. But you're going to pay $64,000 a coin. And just think, you could have had it back when it was $200 if you're more flexible. But right now, you can still have it for a reasonable, not that big, not a huge price. It's big, it's a big price, yeah. But just spend the money you'd spend on coffee on it. Just buy a little bit every month or something. Buy yourself, if you got an extra $50, plunk it down, or whatever, Don't go all high crazy on it. Just get a little bit now, get a little bit of that, and let it add up, and a price average on it. But it's going to be the wave of the future. It's just going to keep going up higher. And they're going to, according to this guy, they're going to slowly be able to scale it, just like they were slow about scaling the internet. They were able to scale the internet. They're going to slowly scale Bitcoin up until they've got it. And I know he's right. He's absolutely right, because I hear them talking about different scaling things that they've got up their sleeve where they can get it up to 30,000 transactions a second. And that's on a par with Visa. And so this is the golden opportunity of a lifetime. Because when this stuff becomes fully adopted, probably within the next 10 or 15 years, just like he says, and now even partial adoption, when there's only 21 million of them to go around, not even 21 million, because look at how many's been lost. When there's so few to go around for the whole world, what they're going to end up doing is they're going to end up breaking them down into pieces. So in the end, I've come to this conclusion. If Bitcoin survives, and I think it's going to, because I've been in it for a few years now, and when I first get in it, I kept thinking Bitcoin's going to die. Bitcoin's going to die. I'd read these articles in the newspapers and stuff that says Bitcoin's going to die, and I'd believe the stupid thing, you know. And Bitcoin never died. It's like the honey badger of currencies. It'll never die. I don't think now. I don't think it's going to die. I think it's just going to slowly keep getting more and more adopted, slow but steady growth until the thing finally hits a inflection point where the growth becomes phenomenally much faster at a certain point when it reaches an inflection point where everybody starts to say, hey, they start to look at Bitcoin's track record and they start to say, hey, you know, wasn't that $200 a couple years ago? And wasn't it 4,000 last year, and now it's 16,000? And suddenly they're going to say, that's doing a hell of a lot better than my 401k. That's doing a hell of a lot better than my bonds. And they all start diving in. And everybody starts to want to get a piece of the action. And it reaches an inflection point where all of a sudden it just kind of explodes. And where the world suddenly starts to sit up and take notice because it's an industry that's like growing, and it's maybe by that time maybe $500 billion industry or $1 trillion industry. And the world is starting to say, hey, you know what? We all want part of that action. And that's exactly what happens. And so at that point, you wish you got in earlier. The thing is we're still early in this game. We're still really early. And this guy is making me realize just exactly how early we are in this game. And so, if you can make room for a little bit of this stuff, I was talking to Pops earlier this afternoon, and I said, and we were by one of these lottery booths, you know, where they sell lottery tickets, and these old ladies were coming in buying their weekly lottery tickets. And heck, they buy them every week, and they buy like $20 worth. But that's $80 a month. And I said to Pop, I said, you know, that old lady, she buys $20 this week and $20 next week. I said, by the end of the month, she pays about $80, maybe $100 on lottery tickets. I said, there's not a snowball's chance in hell she's going to win. It's a very, very slim chance she's going to win. She's more likely to get struck by lightning. She's more likely to die from a heart attack on the way home than win. Any number of things is more likely to happen to her than win. It's only her chance of winning is like 1 in 1 million. You know? But here's a sure thing right under her nose. If she took that $80 every month and went out and bought herself $80 worth of cryptocurrencies, month after month, say for the next 2 years, she did that. And then the cryptocurrencies explode in price. Well, she's probably made as much as if she actually won the lottery, but it's a sure thing. It's not one of these things where she's if or might or will, you know, where she probably won't. It's a sure thing. Because this is exactly what happened to these people 2 or 3 years ago when they went out and bought some Bitcoins and spent their money on Bitcoins. This is exactly what happened. They've made out like bandits. These guys that went out and bought Bitcoin when they were 5 cents each, they made out like bandits, you know? And it's only growing bigger. And they're probably a few years from now going to be saying, damn, you know, I bought the Bitcoins at 5 cents each, and I sold them at $4,000. And the guy says, what did you do that for? And the guy says, what do you mean? I made a ton of money. And he says, what did you sell them at $4,000 for? Because now they're $400,000. You know, that's the kind of thing we're heading toward. I mean, it's crazy. But how high these things could go. And the reason why is because the way Bitcoin breaks apart. So it's only going to be a very rich person in the end, I think, that actually owns a whole Bitcoin. They'd be a very wealthy person. It'd probably be the equivalent of being a millionaire now. And that'll have the same buying power. And so by that time, you know, they will have fixed these scaling issues, and they'll have the Lightning Network in place, and it won't cost anything to send one. You can send one Satoshi. So you got a cup of coffee, you want to buy a cup of coffee, and it might cost one Satoshi. But there's 99 million in a Bitcoin. So that pretty much translates into better than $1, because coffee now is $3, right? So that would be like one Bitcoin would be worth like $3 million if one Satoshi buys your cup of coffee. And so if spending at that rate, you might go to the grocery store, and you might, for 20 Satoshis, you might get a whole cartload full of groceries. Well, equating it that way, you might only spend 1,000 Satoshis a month to live. Right? So there's 99 million in one Bitcoin. So if you're only spending 1,000 Satoshis a month to live in this new age, when the Bitcoin finally gets worth what it's really worth, you know, and you're spending 1,000 Satoshis a month for a nice apartment, all the food, your car, everything, 1,000 Satoshis a month. That's only 10,000 or 12,000 a year Satoshis. And in 100 years of that, at 12,000 a year, 100 years of that, you still haven't spent your Bitcoin. In fact, you've only spent like a fraction of it, of your one Bitcoin. This is what Bitcoin could go to when it's fully adopted worldwide, and the whole world has to share these few Bitcoins that exist. And they have the Lightning Network in place so that they can do endless amounts of transactions for virtually nothing. You know? This is the whole thing and the whole story on this. And this is going to be what they use for money at some point in the future. Now, the government, at that point, when they get to a certain point, when they start to get full adoption of this thing, I still think the government's going to try to take over. It's up to the people whether they allow it or not. And I've figured out now how the government will try to take over this. How they'll try to take it and subvert it. They're simply they're gonna squeal, and they're gonna say, "Ooh, Bitcoin is being used for crime and money laundering." They always use that money laundering. It's like a catch-all for everything. It's like, you know, to get what they want through, you know, the money laundering, and it's being used for drugs and illicit trafficking and all this kind of stuff. And they're gonna say to the people, "We have a solution. It's a very simple solution. You're all going to have to go to our website, government.org or whatever it is, and register as Bitcoin users. Very simple. Anybody can do it. Takes 5 minutes. And then you'll be legally able to use Bitcoin anywhere in the world. Except there's one thing. You're going to have to use a government wallet for your Bitcoin. Government issue wallet. And you'll say, well, what's the difference between a regular wallet and a government-issued wallet? And they'll say, well, the government-issued wallet only has one Bitcoin address that's attached to you. And we register that Bitcoin. When you register as a registered Bitcoin owner, you get you have to register your wallet address, and then we verify that with the wallet that we send to you to use on your computer. But don't worry, because we're the government. We'll never steal your Bitcoin or anything like that. And you still got your own private keys and everything like that in your Bitcoin wallet. And you still can use your cryptography and your own passwords to keep your Bitcoin safe. So don't worry, your Bitcoin will be safe. The only difference is we will have your wallet address on a database with the government. That way we can stop all of this illicit use of Bitcoin as money laundering and et cetera, et cetera. And oh, by the way, if you don't go along with us on this, and we catch you using Bitcoin with an unregistered wallet and an unregistered wallet address, and we see that on the blockchain, we're going to find you. And we're going to eviscerate you. We're going to impale you on a stake until you're dead. This is what they're going to do. This is how they're going to do it. That's what they always do. They always use candy on one end to entice you to do what they want you to do. And on the other end, they use a big stick. They're going to beat you to death on one end. And on the other end, they keep a carrot there. So if you do what they want you to do, they're going to give you the carrot. And in this case, the carrot is that you're going to be allowed to use Bitcoin, but on their terms. This is what they'll do. And it'll work great for them, because when you use your verified wallet address in their database, they'll be able to enter that wallet address at the end of the tax year, and they'll be able to see all the transactions you've made in and out of your wallet. Those in transactions is how much you've been paid. And they won't be thinking in taxes anymore. They'll be thinking in Bitcoin. So there won't be dollars anymore. Dollars will be dead and gone. The government will just take, they'll consider your pay in Bitcoin. We'll all have to start thinking cryptocurrency for value. It's like right now we think dollars. We say, oh, my house is worth $100,000. Well, there'll be a time coming where you'll say, well, my house is worth 0.06 Bitcoins. You can imagine. 6% of one Bitcoin, your whole house is worth. Now, that's how much Bitcoin will be worth at that point. And you'll say, my house is, and it'll be a nice house. It'll be like 100,000 or higher, better, nicer house. Maybe a $200,000 house, you know. And it'll be worth that. It's just a little fraction of one Bitcoin. And that's why I say it'll be a rich guy that owns a whole Bitcoin. You'd never be able to spend it in your entire lifetime. But, on the other hand, the government, you're going to be thinking in Bitcoin then, and so the government will be thinking in Bitcoin, and they'll just extract it from you'll have to send it in. Basically, the way it'll work is they'll just enter your number into the blockchain at their database. It'll pull up your wallet address, and you're not allowed to use any other wallet address, so you can't cheat. And they'll just look and they'll see how much money, how much Bitcoin you had come in to your wallet, right? And they can also look and see how much you've spent. So they know what your savings is, too. They know how much is in your wallet then, at that point. And then they'll just send you a letter in the mail, pay us 0.001 Bitcoins for your year's taxes, or whatever it is. Like probably 0.00, like 1,000 or just 1 MBTC or something, you know, for your whole year's taxes. But that would be the equivalent of like maybe $3,000 or $5,000 or $10,000 or whatever by then, you know. And so we'll have to all switch over and start converting the way our mind thinks. Just like if you lived in America right now, you think in Fahrenheit, in temperature. So you think like, oh, it's 70 degrees out today. But now if you suddenly move to Europe, you'd have to think, hey, it's 20 degrees today. And then when you first moved to Europe, you'd say, oh, that's really cold. But why aren't I freezing? Well, it's the same as 70 degrees, like 70 degrees. But it's in Celsius. And you'd have to start, and when you first moved over there, you'd have to take a conversion chart with you, everything, because you'd be thinking in Fahrenheit, and you'd be trying to convert it over into Celsius and all this kind of crap. But after you've been over there about 10 years, you'd start to know, you wouldn't need the conversion anymore, you'd be on the Celsius. And that's what's going to happen with us with Bitcoins and these cryptocurrencies. Right now, we're all on the dollar, and when we first convert over, we're going to be thinking in dollars. And we're going to be converting dollars into Bitcoin and so on. And right now, we only know what a Bitcoin's worth in terms of dollars. That's all going to go away. You know, this is what's coming. Because this thing is winning. It's slowly but surely, it's winning. And when it finally gets to a certain stage, it's going to win much faster than it is now. So listen, guys, try to stay ahead of this. If you can stay ahead of this game, quite honestly, you're going to be one of the people that has some wealth and resources when this finally, the cryptocurrencies take over the financial system. I think that's ultimately what's coming after the hyperinflation. I think the hyperinflation is going to help drive the adoption of cryptocurrencies that much faster. And in the end, these guys that are into the silver space might wish that they were into the crypto space. But it's smart. I think it's a smart idea if you get into both and get out of the dollar, because the dollar is going to be the toxic one. It's going to be the one that's going to go downhill, and no help, and no one helping it. It's going to be like Humpty Dumpty fell off of a wall. Humpty Dumpty took a great fall and smashed all the pieces. That's going to be the dollar, and nobody can put it back together again. So listen, thank you guys for listening. Like and subscribe. And like I say, check out this Andreas M. Antonopoulos. This guy really knows about the cryptocurrency space, and he knows what's coming too. Just like he can, if you listen to him for a little while, you'll realize that this is going to be the innovative age of cryptocurrency is coming big time. Because it can do tricks that gold and silver can't do. And this is why they went from gold, they converted it into paper. Because paper could do tricks the original gold couldn't do. Like they could write on a slip of paper, the goldsmith could write on a slip of paper that the guy had like a whole ton of gold. And he'd just write it on a slip of paper, and he could carry the paper with him across country and stuff in his purse, and it wouldn't weigh nothing almost. And it'd be worth a whole ton of gold. Now let's see him take that ton of gold and put it in his horse and buggy and take it across country. He couldn't do it. Well, see, that the paper could do things that the actual gold, physical gold, couldn't do. And in this case, cryptocurrency can do things that gold or the paper currencies can't do. Just try to send some money, and you got to go into a Western Union office, and they practically make you sign your life away, and then they charge you a lot of money to send it. Whereas cryptocurrency, bing, bang, boom, it's there. And it doesn't cost a fortune. And when they get the Lightning Network in, it's going to be all the faster. So listen, catch you guys in the next show. Have a nice night. Bye.